I'm here for Lily. For a second, I thought I had misheard my mother. It was 7:12 on a Tuesday morning, and Diane Hayes, the woman who had not looked me in the face in almost 9 years, was standing on my porch with a leather folder tucked under her arm. You want to meet her? I asked. Her mouth tightened. No, I'm taking her home. I stared at her. Home? Your father and I have discussed this. Lily needs stability, family, a proper future. I actually laughed once because the alternative was screaming. Which home, Mom? The one where you pretended she didn't exist? Her expression flickered, then hardened. She opened the folder. Inside were photographs of old apartments, screenshots, employment records, even a copy of a late rent notice from when Lily was a baby. My stomach dropped. Diane hadn't come back because she missed us. She had been building a case. I've spoken to an attorney, she said. And suddenly, 9 years of silence felt less like abandonment and more like preparation. You worked 2 jobs, Diane continued, tapping one page. You needed childcare assistance. You stayed with a friend when Lily was an infant because you threw me out. You survived, Serena. That doesn't mean you gave her what she deserved. Before I could answer, the front door opened behind me. Mom? Lily stood there in her school uniform, backpack over one shoulder. Diane went completely still. My daughter looked at her, then at me. Who is she? I kept my voice steady. She's my mother. Lily's eyes changed. She knew exactly what that meant. 9 years earlier, when I was 20 and pregnant, my father had demanded adoption. My mother had delivered the ultimatum herself. If you keep her, you're on your own. I had asked, you really won't know your own granddaughter. Dad had answered, that will be your decision, not ours. So I chose my baby. Within days, my bank access was gone. Tuition help disappeared. I was told to leave. Later, I mailed photographs. No reply. Lily's first birthday invitation came back unopened. Eventually, I stopped asking people to love my child. Now, Diane stood on my porch saying, things have changed. What changed? She didn't answer. Instead, she said quietly, don't make this uglier than it needs to be. Then I saw the family law firm's name printed across the top page in her folder. This wasn't a threat she had invented on the drive over. She had prepared for me. I told Lily to go inside, stepped closer to my mother, and said, you had 9 years to be her grandmother. You don't get to become her mother because you finally changed your mind. Then I shut the door. Diane stayed outside. Through the window, I watched her pull out her phone and make a call. And one question would not leave my mind. If my mother had ignored Lily for 9 years, why had she suddenly spent months building a file on me? That evening, Lily barely touched her dinner. She pushed a piece of chicken around her plate with her fork while I pretended not to notice. Finally, she looked up. Mom? Yeah? Did Grandma know about me? I stopped moving. There were a dozen softer answers I could have given her, but none of them were true. Yes. Lily's forehead tightened. Since I was born? Yes. She looked down at her plate again. Then came the question I had spent 9 years hoping she would never need to ask. Then why didn't they want me? I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. They made a decision because they wanted to control what I did. That decision was about them, Lily, not you. But she wants me now. I could hear the confusion in her voice. She says she does. Lily looked toward the front door. Can she really take me? No. The answer came faster than I expected. I squeezed her hand. Nobody gets to walk into this house after 9 years and decide they're your parent. For the first time since breakfast, Lily's shoulders relaxed. Mine didn't. Because the next morning, I was sitting across from a family law attorney named Maya Brooks with photographs of Diane's folder saved on my phone. Maya studied them for several minutes before looking at me. Serena, being wealthier than you does not make your mother a better custodial option. What about my past? What, specifically? The apartment, the late rent, childcare assistance, working 2 jobs. Maya leaned back. That was 9 years ago. I swallowed. She made it sound like it mattered. It matters as history. It does not automatically establish that Lily is unsafe now. She tapped her pen against the desk. What matters is Lily's current home, schooling, health, stability, your relationship with her, and whether there's evidence of neglect or danger. There isn't. Then your mother has a problem. I should have felt relieved. Instead, another thought settled in. If that's obvious to you, wouldn't her attorney have told her the same thing? Maya looked at me carefully. Yes. That answer bothered me more than anything Diane had said on the porch, because my mother hadn't looked uncertain. She had looked prepared. That afternoon, she called. Her voice had changed. No demands, no icy threats, just softness. Serena, yesterday got out of hand. I said nothing. I was emotional. You threatened to take my daughter. I said things badly. You brought a lawyer's folder. Pause. Then she sighed. Can we meet? Just you and me. No, Lily. I almost refused, but I needed to know what she wanted. Public place. Fine. We met at a cafe the next morning. Diane was already seated when I arrived. This time, there was no legal folder open on the table. Instead, she had photographs. Old ones. Me at 7 in a Halloween costume. Me sitting beside Dad at Christmas. Me standing in the backyard on my 15th birthday. Diane pushed one toward me. You used to love that dress. I didn't touch it. Why am I here? She gave a small, tired smile. Because I don't want us to keep doing this. For one dangerous second, I thought maybe she was finally going to say it. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I abandoned you. Instead, she folded her hands. Lily shouldn't pay forever for a mistake you made at 20. I stared at her. My mistake? You know what I mean. No, say it. Her expression tightened, keeping the pregnancy when you weren't ready. There it was. 9 years later, and my mother still believed Lily herself had been the error. I pushed the photograph back toward her. So, this isn't an apology. Serena, stop turning everything into an attack. You called my daughter a mistake. I said the decision was irresponsible, and yet now you want her, because we're trying to fix the damage. I laughed quietly. The damage you caused? Diane's jaw tightened. Then she changed tactics again. We can help. With what? Everything. She started counting it off as though she were discussing a business proposal. Private school, medical expenses, activities, college eventually. I didn't ask you for money. You shouldn't have to. What do you want in return? Her eyes met mine. A meaningful role in her life. What does meaningful mean? Regular access, weekends, holidays, decisions concerning education. I stared at her. You want parental authority. I want Lily to have options. She has options. Serena, you can't give her everything. There it was again. Money as proof of love. Resources as authority. The same language my parents had used when I was 20. I stood. We're done. Diane's warmth disappeared instantly. You're letting pride hurt your daughter? I grabbed my bag. No, I'm preventing you from buying your way into being her mother. Diane stood too, snatching up her papers. As she did, one sheet slipped from beneath the photographs and landed near my chair. I bent to pick it up. At first, I thought it was another legal document. Then I saw the dates. 6 months of them. My workplace. Lily's school district. The date we moved into our current house. My professional profile. Old public social media posts. Even the neighborhood where Lily took dance classes the year before. My pulse kicked hard. This hadn't started when Diane knocked on my door. She had been watching us for months. I pulled out my phone, snapped a quick photograph of the page, then handed it back. Diane's eyes narrowed. What did you just do? Nothing you need to worry about. I turned toward the exit. Serena. I looked back. Diane had sat down again. Very calmly, she reached inside her folder and pulled out another document. She slid it across the table. A prepared visitation agreement. Then she placed a pen neatly on top of it. Sit down, she said, and sign. I looked at the pen, then at my mother. No, Diane's eyebrows lifted. You haven't even read it. I don't need to. This gives your father and me regular visitation. That's all. I picked up the agreement, slid it back across the table, and stood. You don't threaten me with custody on Tuesday and ask me to voluntarily hand over weekends on Thursday. Serena, you wanted an answer. You have one. I walked out. 3 days later, my phone started exploding. The first message came from an aunt I hadn't spoken to in almost 4 years. Your mother is devastated. Please stop punishing everyone. Then my uncle called, then a cousin. By lunchtime, I understood exactly what Diane had done. She had taken our private conflict and turned it into a family campaign. According to the version everyone had been told, my parents had spent years trying to repair our relationship. I had supposedly refused every attempt. Now, after finally finding the courage to approach me again, poor Diane was being denied even the chance to know her granddaughter. One cousin actually wrote, "Lily deserves grandparents, Serena. Whatever issues you have with your mother shouldn't be taken out on a child." I stared at that message for a long time. For 9 years, nobody had said Lily deserved grandparents when Diane and Richard were ignoring her. Now suddenly, I was the person depriving her of family. Then Aunt Carol invited everyone to her house that Sunday. I knew exactly what it was, an intervention. Normally, I would have stayed away. But staying silent was how Diane had been able to rewrite 9 years in less than a week. So I arranged for Lily to stay with someone I trusted and went alone. When I walked into Aunt Carol's living room, Diane and Richard were already sitting together on the sofa. It was the first time I'd seen my father in nearly 9 years. Richard looked older. His hair had thinned. His shoulders weren't as broad as I remembered. For half a second, neither of us spoke. Then Diane broke the silence. "Thank you for finally coming." I almost laughed. Finally, as though she had been waiting 9 years for me. My uncle gestured toward an empty chair. "Can we just talk like adults? I've been trying to." Diane sighed loudly. That's exactly what I've been dealing with." Several people shifted uncomfortably. My uncle leaned forward. "Serena, whatever happened 9 years ago, they're still your parents." I looked directly at him. "And Lily was still their granddaughter 9 years ago." The room went quiet. Diane's eyes immediately filled. "I have apologized for how things happened." "No, you haven't." "Serena, you haven't apologized once." She pressed a hand against her chest. "I've tried to reach you. That stopped me." "You've tried to reach me?" "For years." Richard glanced at her. I saw it. Just a small movement, but something in his expression changed. Diane continued. "You disappeared after the pregnancy. You cut us off. Every time we discussed finding you, there was another excuse, another wall. Did you receive Lily's first birthday invitation?" Diane stopped. Richard turned toward her. "What?" I kept my eyes on my mother. Simple question. "Did you receive it?" "I don't remember something from 8 years ago." "I do." I took out my phone. I'd photographed the envelope years earlier because something about seeing refused stamped across my daughter's birthday invitation had felt too cruel to throw away without proof. I held up the picture. Nobody spoke. "That was Lily's first birthday," I said. "Returned unopened." Diane shook her head. "That proves nothing. We were all emotional back then." I swiped to the next images. Messages. "Mum, Lily is 3 months old. Would you like a picture?" No response. Another. "Dad, she's starting to smile. I know you're angry with me, but she didn't do anything. Nothing." Another. "I'm not asking for money. I just don't want you to miss her whole childhood." Silence. Richard stood slowly. "Give me the phone." I handed it to him. He read each screenshot. Then he looked at Diane. "You told me she never contacted us." Diane's face changed. Not much, but enough. She stopped eventually. I took my phone back. "Yes." Everyone looked at me. I stopped asking people to reject my daughter. Aunt Carol lowered her eyes. The cousin who had lectured me earlier didn't say another word. Richard was still staring at Diane. "You said Serena wanted nothing to do with us." "She did. These messages say otherwise." Diane stood. "You agreed with me when she got pregnant, Richard." "I did." His voice was quiet. And I was wrong for that. But you told me there was never any contact. Diane grabbed her handbag. Suddenly, the tears were gone. You all want to make me the villain because Serena came prepared with screenshots? No, I said. You came prepared with a custody file. I came prepared with the truth. Her face hardened. Fine. She looked around the room. If Serena wants to perform for everyone here, she can explain herself properly when the lawyers get involved. Diane, stop, Richard said. No, she pointed at me. She thinks because she survived a few difficult years, nobody can question her choices. I stepped toward her. My choices raised Lily. Yours abandoned her. Diane walked out. The front door slammed so hard a picture on Aunt Carol's wall shifted. Nobody followed her, not even my father. I left a few minutes later. I had almost reached my car when I heard footsteps behind me. Serena. I turned. Richard was coming down the driveway. For the first time since I'd arrived, he looked less like the father who had disowned me and more like a man who had just discovered that 9 years of his own life weren't exactly what he'd been told. He stopped several feet away. There is something you need to know. I tightened my grip around my keys. What? He glanced toward the house, then back at me. Serena, your mother isn't telling you why she came back. What does that mean? Richard glanced toward Aunt Carol's house, as if he expected Diane to come storming back through the door. 6 months ago, I had a cardiac episode. My anger stalled. What? I'm all right now, mostly. But for a few hours, nobody knew how serious it was. He rubbed a hand over his chest. Afterward, I started thinking about what I'd leave behind and who I'd leave behind. I already knew where this was going. Lily, Richard nodded. I asked your mother about her, and she told me it was better not to reopen old wounds. A bitter laugh escaped me. That sounds like her. I kept asking. His voice dropped. I told Diane I didn't want another 9 years to pass. I wanted to meet my granddaughter before it was too late. 6 months. My mind immediately went to the timeline that had fallen from Diane's folder. 6 months of addresses, work information, school details, and social media posts. Exactly 6 months. What did Mom tell you she was going to do? Richard hesitated. She said she'd fix everything. And you believed that meant an apology? I did. I stared at him. You disowned me too. I know. No, Dad. You don't get to stand here and pretend Mum did all of this alone. You told me choosing Lily meant losing you. His eyes dropped. You're right. That answer surprised me more than an excuse would have. But I didn't know she was gathering information to threaten you with custody, he continued. I swear to you, I believed he hadn't known. That didn't erase what he'd done. But suddenly, Diane's plan made sense. She wanted Lily back in the family without ever having to admit why Lily had been missing from it. If she apologized, she had to approach me as the mother she had abandoned. If she made me look unstable, she could approach Lily as the grandmother coming to rescue her. The next morning, I sat in Maya Brooks's office. We document everything, Maya said. So we did. I went home and opened boxes I hadn't touched in years. Old phones, printed emails, rental agreements, school paperwork. Then I found the text, 9 years old, from Diane. If you keep this baby, do not expect your father and me to finance the consequences. You will be on your own. I stared at it until the words blurred. Not because they surprised me, because for years, my mother had relied on the assumption that I wouldn't still have proof. I kept searching. Lily's returned first birthday invitation, emails from infancy, employment records showing how long I'd held each job, lease agreements. Later, the paperwork from buying my home, school records, childcare documentation, pediatric records showing years of regular appointments. Everything Diane's folder tried to erase was sitting in front of me. Then I found the email that changed the entire shape of her argument. Lily had been only a few months old when I'd written, I don't want money. I just want Lily to know her grandparents. Can we please talk? Diane's reply was still there. Do not contact us again unless you're prepared to correct the decision that caused this situation. I called Maya. I found something. Within an hour, I was sitting across from her while she read the email twice. This matters, she said, because she told everyone I disappeared? That too. Maya placed the printout beside Diane's proposed visitation agreement, but there's a larger problem for your mother. What? She wants to use your difficult first year as evidence that Lily needed rescuing. Yes. Then where was she? I said nothing. If Diane genuinely believed Lily was neglected or unsafe, why didn't she report it? Why didn't she seek intervention then? Why didn't she visit? Why didn't she send assistance? She didn't want anything to do with us. Exactly. Maya tapped Diane's old email. Her own words help explain why. Through the attorneys, more of Diane's supposed evidence became clear. The tiny apartment, the late rent notice, the period I stayed with a friend, the childcare assistance. Almost everything came from Lily's first year. There was nothing showing Lily was currently unsafe, nothing showing neglect, nothing showing instability now. Diane had taken the hardest months of my life, the months made harder because my parents abandoned me, and tried to turn them into evidence that I should lose the child I'd survived them for. So Maya and I prepared a formal response. We rejected the visitation agreement, we documented the 9-year history, and I made one decision that wasn't negotiable. Lily doesn't meet Diane while this threat exists. Maya nodded. That's your boundary. Richard called that evening. Does that include me? I was quiet for a moment. Right now, yes. I understand. If you ever have a relationship with Lily Dad, you earn it. Slowly. You don't get one because you're her grandfather. I know. And Lily gets a choice. Yes, no pressure, no guilt, no pretending the last 9 years didn't happen. His voice cracked slightly. I understand. For the first time in my life, my father wasn't telling me what the family rules were. I was. 2 days later, Maya and I were finishing the evidence packet in her office. The ultimatum, the returned invitation, the unanswered messages, the email telling me not to contact them. 9 years of housing, employment, school, childcare, and medical records. Diane had brought a folder to my doorstep, expecting my past to frighten me. Now we had the complete past. Maya's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and answered. Brooks. I watched her expression change as she listened. Yes, she's here. A pause? No, we won't agree to that. Another pause. Then Maya slowly looked at me. All right, send it in writing. She ended the call. What happened? Maya placed the phone on her desk. Diane's attorney just saw what we sent. 3 days later, Diane's attorney requested a meeting. Not a hearing, not another threat, a meeting. Maya read the email across her desk and looked at me. They want to discuss this before taking any further action. What does that mean? It means they saw the complete timeline. For 9 years, my parents had controlled the story by refusing to talk about what happened. Now there were dates, messages, returned envelopes, records. Their silence finally had documentation attached to it. I agreed to the meeting. Diane was already seated when Maya and I entered the conference room. Her attorney sat beside her. Richard was there too, but he had taken a chair several feet away from Diane. My mother noticed me looking. Your father insisted on attending. Richard didn't respond. I sat beside Maya. Diane folded her hands. Can we please handle this without turning it into another attack? Maya opened our file. We're here to establish the facts. Diane's attorney gave a small nod. Agreed. Maya started at the beginning. Serena became pregnant at 20. Diane interrupted immediately. She was completely unprepared. Her attorney touched her arm. Maya continued. Richard and Diane demanded that Serena place the baby for adoption. Serena refused. She placed a printed copy of my mother's text on the table. If you keep this baby, do not expect your father and me to finance the consequences. You will be on your own. Nobody needed to interpret it. Diane stared at the paper. That was written during an extremely emotional time. I remember I said, I was the one you sent it to, Maya continued. My access to family financial support disappeared. Tuition assistance stopped. I left my parents' home. Then Lily was born. Maya placed my emails on the table, requests to talk, offers to send photographs, messages asking them to know their granddaughter. Then came the returned birthday invitation. Refused. Richard stared at it again. Diane shifted in her chair. I already said I don't remember receiving that. You don't need to remember, Maya said calmly. The record exists. Then she placed the email from Diane beside it, the one telling me not to contact them unless I was prepared to correct the decision that caused the situation. Diane's attorney read it silently. His expression tightened. Richard leaned forward. You wrote that? Diane turned toward him. You agreed with me. I agreed that Serena wasn't ready to raise a baby. I did not know she was contacting us and you were telling her to stay away. You were there, Richard. Don't rewrite yourself into some innocent bystander. I'm not. His voice was low. I failed her too. That silenced the room. Maya moved forward through the years, employment records, stable housing, Lily's school attendance, medical records, childcare documentation, then the home I eventually bought. Beside those records, Maya placed the documents Diane had collected. My first apartment, my late rent notice, the period when Lily and I stayed with my friend, childcare assistance. Almost all of it came from my first year as a mother. Maya looked at Diane. Your materials demonstrate that Serena struggled financially after being cut off by her parents at 20. Diane crossed her arms. They demonstrate instability. From approximately 9 years ago, she was raising a baby in that environment. Maya nodded. Then I have a question. Diane said nothing. If you believed Lily was unsafe, what action did you take? Diane blinked. Excuse me? Did you report suspected neglect? No. Did you seek custody then? No. Did you request a welfare check? No. Did you provide financial assistance? Diane's jaw tightened. No. Did you visit Lily? Silence. Maya waited. No. Did you establish any relationship with her during those 9 years? Diane looked away. Her attorney finally spoke. That's enough. But it was already enough. The same 9 years Diane wanted to use against me created the question she couldn't answer. If I had been such a dangerous mother, why had she done absolutely nothing? Because she hadn't believed Lily needed rescuing, she had wanted Lily erased. Until 6 months ago. Maya placed the timeline I'd photographed in the cafe on the table. Your investigation begins 6 months before your doorstep visit. Richard stared at it. I looked at him. Tell them. Diane snapped. Serena, no. He should tell them. Richard took a breath. 6 months ago, I had a cardiac episode. Diane's attorney looked at him. Richard continued. Afterward, I started thinking about Serena, about Lily, about how much time we'd lost. His fingers tightened together. I told Diane I wanted to meet my granddaughter before more years passed. Diane shook her head. Richard, don't. You said you'd fix it. I was trying to. No, I said. You were trying to fix the outcome without admitting what caused it. Diane looked at me. I finally understood everything. She couldn't bring Lily back into the family by apologizing, because an apology meant admitting that I had been right to protect and raise my daughter. So she had chosen another story. I was unstable, she was concerned, Lily needed more. Diane wasn't the mother who had rejected her granddaughter. She was the grandmother arriving to save her. The late rent notice wasn't about Lily's safety. It was a prop. The tiny apartment wasn't proof of neglect. It was a weapon. My hardest year had been stripped of context and turned into a case against me. Diane leaned forward. You're making this sound sinister. I wanted my family back. Then you should have knocked on my door and said you were sorry. I knew you wouldn't listen. You never tried. I knew you. No, Mom. You knew the 20-year-old version of me who depended on you for tuition and somewhere to live. Her face tightened. You think because you bought a house and got a career, suddenly you're better than us? No. I leaned forward. I think because I raised Lily for 9 years, I'm her mother. Diane's attorney cleared his throat. Based on what I've now reviewed, I don't believe continuing with the custody strategy you've described is advisable. Diane turned sharply. What? The current material doesn't establish parental unfitness. You told me we had options. We discussed possible options based on the information you provided. I provided everything. Her attorney glanced at the documents covering the table. No, apparently you didn't. Diane's face went pale. Then she looked at me. I can give Lily more than you can. 9 years ago, that sentence would have destroyed me. I would have started listing my salary, my house, her school, her activities, everything I'd accomplished to prove I was enough. I didn't need to anymore. She already has what she needs. Diane stared at me. And what's that? A parent who stayed. Richard lowered his head. Diane's lips parted, but nothing came out. Then her face hardened. Everything I did was because I was trying to protect you. You were 20 years old. You were throwing your future away. I looked directly at her. Then why did protecting my future require punishing my daughter? Silence. No legal argument, no old photograph, no financial offer, just silence. Richard finally lifted his head. We were wrong. Diane turned toward him. Don't. We were. Richard. I told my pregnant daughter that if she kept her baby, she would lose her family. His voice shook. I was wrong. Diane stared at him as if he had betrayed her. You're taking her side now? Richard looked at her. There should never have been sides. That was the moment Diane lost control of the room, not when Maya showed the evidence, not when her attorney advised against the custody strategy. When Richard stopped helping her pretend that control was the same thing as family, I pushed the visitation agreement toward her. I won't sign this. Diane didn't touch it. If you ever have contact with Lily, it will be voluntary, gradual, no threats, no manipulation, no pretending you're entitled to make parental decisions. I'm her grandmother and I'm her mother. Diane stood. You'll regret shutting us out. I remained seated. You shut yourselves out 9 years ago. She left. This time, I didn't watch through a window to see what she did next. I didn't need to. The legal threat stopped. The family pressure changed too. Once relatives learned about the messages, the returned invitation, and Diane's version of my disappearance, several called to apologize. I didn't launch a campaign against my mother. I simply stopped protecting her from the truth. If someone asked what happened, I gave them the dates, the messages, the facts. Some apologized, others went quiet. Both were easier to live with than another lie. Richard sent me a letter. There were no excuses in it, no request to meet Lily, no demand for forgiveness, just an admission that he had chosen control over his daughter and lost 9 years with both of us because of it. I didn't forgive him immediately. Months passed. He called when I allowed it. He respected every boundary. Eventually, I asked Lily whether she wanted to meet him. She thought about it. Will you be there? Yes. Okay. Their first meeting lasted less than an hour. Richard didn't hug her when she entered. He waited. Hello, Lily. Hi, Richard. I saw the pain cross his face when she used his first name, but he smiled gently. It's nice to finally meet you. She was polite, curious, but she spoke to him exactly as he was. A stranger. That was the consequence of 9 years. I couldn't manufacture it. And I didn't need to. Diane never accepted my boundaries as easily. What she lost wasn't money or a court case. She lost authority. Richard no longer supported her version of our history. Relatives stopped automatically believing her. I stopped needing her approval. And Lily's relationship with her wasn't hers to command. Months later, a birthday card arrived. It was addressed to Lily. From Diane. I handed it to my daughter. You can open it if you want. Lily looked at the envelope. Do I have to? No. She placed it on the counter. Maybe later. Okay. And that was it. No guilt, no lecture about blood, no demand that Lily make an adult feel better. I realized how completely my life had reversed. At 20, I had left my parents' house carrying 2 bags. My mother stood in the doorway, convinced reality would scare me into coming back. 9 years later, I had my own home, a career, financial independence, a healthy daughter, and boundaries my parents couldn't purchase. Diane once controlled whether I had somewhere to live. Now she couldn't cross my front door without permission. Eventually, ordinary life returned. School projects, friends sleeping over, weekend pancakes. Lily negotiating for 10 extra minutes before bedtime as though international diplomacy depended on it. I stopped checking the driveway. The evidence went into a box. I kept it because I had learned what documentation could protect, but I stopped living inside those old messages. Richard continued trying, slowly, without entitlement. Whether Lily ever called him grandpa would be Lily's decision. Diane remained outside our immediate lives because she still couldn't accept a relationship she didn't control. I didn't celebrate that. I simply refused to sacrifice my daughter's security to make my mother's regret easier to carry. One evening, Lily and I were sitting together when she suddenly asked me something. Mom, if you could go back, would you choose differently? I knew exactly what she meant. I put down what I was holding and knelt beside her. I'd change a lot. She watched me carefully. I'd ask for help sooner. I'd worry less. I'd probably sleep whenever people told me to sleep when you were a baby. She smiled. Then I took her hands. But I would never change choosing you. Lily wrapped her arms around my neck. And standing there with my daughter, I finally understood what my parents' ultimatum had actually done. Being disowned hadn't left me without a family. It had forced me to recognize who my family was. 9 years earlier, my mother told me choosing my daughter would leave me with no family. She was wrong. I chose my family that day.